The Leech. Mortimer's effulgence once again created a protective dome around the three of us. He walked ahead of our next guest, Zoe, picture of health. She oozed organic nutrition and cruelty-free makeup. A gait suited her slender frame as she glided ahead of me, dressed in a floral dress that hung to her knees. A saffron shawl covered her bare shoulders. It matched the color of her trainers. Black mist had wrapped itself around Mortimer's sphere, teeth gnashing, claws ripping, attempting to break in. Zoe did not seem fazed in the slightest by what looked like an angry black squid. "I know you will protect me, gatekeeper," she said, smiling. It was alluring, but I couldn't help feeling that it was not meant for me. "Your mist needs to be cleansed of its gunk," Zoe said, her eyes on the mist beast ahead of us. We reached my home. Mortimer's effulgence faded as he climbed the 3 steps to the porch and stopped, turning towards Zoe. "Mortimer will show you to the lounge. Please take a seat," I said. She nodded and followed him. Zoe was right about the mist. Not seen this form of black mist in a long while. A dark, thick syrup that dribbled was once a black ocean that foamed as it rolled in on itself. It needs to be dealt with, but I shall do that after I've seen to my guest. I entered the lounge to find Zoe sat in an armchair. Her radiance had diminished. She appeared sallow, her frame gaunt, the twinkle in her eyes gone. "Look what your house has done to me." Zoe pointed her long hypodermic needle-shaped fingers at me. She had 5 on each hand, and they were identical to the 5 on each foot. "I look like I was dragged out of a swamp 3 weeks after I died," she said. "My house sees you for what you truly are, a leech." Zoe pointed her fingers and toes at me. Her eyes blazed yellow. Mortimer watched her from his usual spot on the rug beside the fireplace. "I was only following my need for sustenance, gatekeeper. I did not choose to be what I am." Zoe looked at the fireplace. Flickers of varying shades of blue reflected in her jaundiced eyes. "When I was alive, I helped people eat better, stay trim, and feel better about themselves, all without following a prescribed diet. My method worked wonders. My business was growing. I gave them advice and food products that were grown personally by me, in my swamp. That way, it was organically me in every sense. I mixed the soil, added my very own compost, and used specific ingredients to ensure that each fruit, vegetable, and nut was packed with goodness. I know about this stuff because of my swamp. It is packed with nutrients and minerals, essence of life, but the most important ingredient was the enzymes. The food grown there was exquisite." Zoe looked at the fireplace. "I cannot feel warmth from this fire. It is not a nurturing fire." "It will not be what you are used to," I said. "Life needs heat to sustain itself. This is not a place of life. How can you live here?" Zoe raised her hands. Her hypodermic needle fingers bent towards me. "I doubt you will like the sustenance you suck from me. It will poison you," I said, smiling. "That is exactly how I died, gatekeeper." Zoe lowered her fingers and toes. "I had a symbiotic relationship with my clients. I fed them, but during the massage therapy sessions, I would lull them to sleep with oils and incense. Organic, of course." Zoe returned her gaze to the fireplace. Her mouth opened. She levitated, knees to her torso, arms stretched, her fingers and toes erected, pointing straight ahead, sharp and menacing. I edged towards them as they slept. Dig. My needles penetrated their back, 2 inches above the hips and 3 inches below the shoulders. Prime location for sweet nectar, Zoe said. She smiled as if relishing the taste. I had my fill. Zoe looked at me. Do not kill, just eat. Their juice was luscious because of my swamp nutrients ran through their blood. It was perfect. My clients even dismissed the tiny needle marks on their backs as part of the treatment. I was in awe of myself, that I could live amongst humans and feed safely on only organic food harvested from my swamp. Why could you not just feed directly from your swamp? I said. Zoe looked at me. Her jaundiced eyes perked at the edges as she smiled. The taste of human blood. Zoe laughed. I could see the color return to her cheeks. I am messing with you, gatekeeper. It is for the same reason you need to filter a river before you drink it. I have tried to directly take from the source of my swamp, but the bacteria in it do not agree with me. Human blood acts as a filter that removes the harmful properties. Zoe's fingers and toes receded to their human form. Mortimer raised his head, watching Zoe. Going to the source will kill you, as they say, she said. Yes, living in a purified world where there is no contamination will also kill you, I said. Zoe smiled. Dirt is required to survive. You know much, gatekeeper. I touched my heart and gave her a gentle nod. Zoe looked at Mortimer. Gatekeeper, I would not feed on you, but him. He is full of life. Ram! Zoe sprang at Mortimer, finger and claws pointed at his torso. I pulled her out of the air and slammed her against the floor, head first. Her arms splayed out on either side. I pulled her middle finger back on itself, snapping it. I did the same on the other hand. Would you like me to continue snapping? I said. No, please, stop. Be done with me. Just do not snap any more fingers. Mortimer's bark would tear the flesh off you, Leech. You're lucky I've just snapped your fingers. Mortimer growled. Zoe wept. I'm starving. Be done with me, Zoe said. Very well. I gripped her neck and raised her to her feet, frog marching her out of my lounge. Wait, please, she said. Zoe looked out the waiting room window. Take me outside there, please, gatekeeper. That is not your door, I said. Zoe turned to me. Touching hands, her broken fingers dangled at odd angles. I can help there. Clean the gunk from your mist. At least let me do that. You do realize it will absorb you. You might not survive. Zoe nodded. Grant me this accord and I will align myself with you and this house, gatekeeper. Mortimer barked. I released Zoe's neck. Very well. This way. I opened the front door and stepped outside. Zoe followed me, Mortimer just behind her. Before you go, you did not say how the poison got in your bloodstream. Zoe smiled. Food poisoning. A client who swore she only ate my products had one too many pizza slices before she came in for a session. You know what salt can do to a leech. I smiled. Your own purity worked against you. Zoe nodded. I gestured to the mist. Zoe descended the 3 steps of my porch and walked straight into the black squid beast of a mist. It devoured her instantly. Mortimer and I stood on the porch and watched. The syrupy black vial frothed and twisted, arching and cracking as it was drawn to a center point. Its end tethers thinned, becoming more fluid and resembling the old ocean of the mist that surrounded my house. Mortimer and I kept watching. After a while, the black syrup that dribbled was only at its center mass. Beyond it, the mist was its usual calm ocean, with waves rolling into themselves as they approached my home. There, I spotted her. Zoe walked towards the house. She appeared human again, radiant. Her floral dress gleamed, as did her eyes and long locks. She held her shawl over one arm as she came and stood at my porch. "Thank you, gatekeeper." She offered me her shawl. "Please keep this in your lounge as my offering and allegiance to you and this house." I nodded. She stepped on my porch and bowed, holding the shawl in two hands. I took the shawl with my left hand and touched my heart with my right, with a gentle nod. "I accept your allegiance," I said. Zoe smiled. Her skin glowed. Flecks of black mist wafted from her. I noticed something new on her right shoulder, a tattoo, an outline of a peacock feather. It glistened. "You have done well, young miss," I said. I didn't think I could, but something gave me courage. It is the next step in my evolution. I knew from the moment I came here that I'm in the right company to evolve. This is where I belong. "When did you first hear him?" I said. "When we were walking towards your home. When I smiled and you noticed that I wasn't smiling at you." Zoe bowed again. She turned and descended the stairs, disappearing into the black mist. Mortimer and I stood on the porch, watching the mist for a while. There was a serenity to it, the personality of its new keeper. I have been around a while, and yet today I was surprised. Actions not of my making or guidance. Rather, a tiny soul that has taken the next step of her own accord. Zoe did not know that she would survive blending with the mist. Many souls haven't, but she took that step because of a flute she heard. She listened, and she was shown the way. As for her new tattoo, all you need to do is be still and listen, and you will hear it too. He will help you. See you next Sunday at 11. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.